and what the subtext is. And I find it very difficult unless one picks up something by chance. It's very difficult to understand the subtext, you know, the whole commissioning system, and at all the different levels and stages, even within the hospitals now.
Thank you very much.
I have a question as well.
Oh yes, yes.
Wait, who goes next? Who's next?
Yeah. Thank you.
Your argument about this.
Sorry, your name?
Sorry, D.
D? Nicholas.
Oh. Yeah. Your argument you put forward in terms of a social justice human rights issue is undeniable when we're talking about the systemic nature of people dying in custody. And you talked about how CPS tend to actually just dismiss things and not actually even take into account that somebody's died in like custody. Has there been any like discussion about taking it to Europe? Because you mentioned the UN, but there's also the European Commission on Human Rights. Is that avenue being like looked at?
I didn't include an image of Mikey Powell, and that case is, but Mikey Powell's cousin spoke at the conference that we organised in 2013, and no, it's not Mikey Powell, it's Roger Sylvester, who did see, like he was the man knocking on the door mysteriously. Anyway, he didn't have any clothes on, the police took him to a psychiatric hospital and restrained him. And that was 16 years ago, and his family had exhausted all legal recourses in this country and have now gone to Europe. So they're waiting on that. Orville Blackwood's mother also went to the European Court. I don't know if you know of the case of Christopher Alder. He was a paratrooper.
Yeah.
Because
It was
Janet.
filmed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The interesting thing now, because CPS, it's like, I don't know if it's review season, but CPS have a forum on, not a forum, but they have a committee looking at this because they are aware of the increasing concern, probably also the fact that families are demonstrating outside their front door. And so they're looking at this, and you say that they're filmed, but with the way technology is at the moment, it's almost every single death will be caught on camera. Like all the most recent ones, Sean Rigg, for instance, somebody had just moved into the area. His family said this, just moved into the area, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing, and they were like, "What kind of area have I moved into?" So they were filming it to show to their friend, not realising the importance of the footage. And so, yes, people are going to Europe with Janet Alder's case in order for the UK government not to be found wanting. They encouraged her to accept an apology from the UN without. It was an apology with a condition. So yeah, people are going to Europe. And I think you just have to keep on going. And so what we did in 2014, which was the first time, and I was talking to Bob and Naya about the UN, is we brought the issue of deaths in custody to the working group because they're looking at like all the issues to do with the diaspora. And they're aware of like the criminal justice system and the incarceration and like social and economic exclusion. But it was a 10-page dossier of all the issues that we're concerned about, because you can speak and speak and speak, and so it's just taking it to another arena and seeing what happens. And so it's been taken to Europe. There are at least one case that we're aware of that's the European Council, and it's just hoping that we see a breakthrough.
Having said that, though, there's been a number of instances when the UK government has actually lost in Europe and just ignored it. So
well, you're right, because if it's a bit like an inquest hearing, like the Sean Rigg inquest verdict concluded that both South London Ward, the NHS Trust and the Met's negligence had contributed to his death, and yet it's the Met that's been tasked with rolling out new training led by. So you're completely right. And I think it's for us to speak out about these things when we're aware of them, and that might not make you the most popular person, but speaking out about them means that people cannot ignore them, because the thinking is make it go away and disappear.
I think also as well, if you look at obviously the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, because Black children are having such difficulty, well, continue to have such the supplementary school movement kind of was kind of developed. I mean, listening to this, it's almost like we need some kind of outside health services which we actually create, which we provide for our community's benefit. So there is an actual space to go.
And this is what's really encouraging for me. I thank you for the opportunity to share this information, and I thank you for your time and for sitting through it. But now seeds have been planted, because sometimes it's unbearable. When I read the David Bent Inquiry report, it was more than I could bear. And I didn't ever think about setting up an organisation, and it's for us to do for self. And you're right, the fact that one person's mentioned our own cultural therapeutic alternatives, and you've mentioned the same. This is the genesis of us creating a space. So where we have professionals who want to be lay people, they can contribute in a way that's constructive and they know that's going to lead to long-term positive change. And so, yeah, I agree with you completely. We need to have the infrastructure and then be able to provide the sort of services that mean that people who need them can be treated with love and humanity. Yeah, you're right.
What was that transcultural?
Transcultural Psychiatry Society.
Oh, okay.
And it's the Royal College of Psychiatry, so TCS. If you Google them, then it's a group of psychiatrists. I think there might be maybe one from our community because it's VME, and so it's. But they look at this, and their work focuses on the fact that different communities have a different perspective of world viewing.
Back on that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you remember that conference? It might have been around 2010, 2009. It was at Blackfriars, and Vivian from Evolve, Dr. Sandra Richards, Dr. Malcolm Phillips, and who's the brother that came from America? He's one of them top psychologists as well. I don't know, I can't remember his name either, but he's one of the top ones. He's written some books. He's very well known, but during the Q&A, I'm always the first person to ask a question, and I'm saying, like, look, you've got Dr. Sandra Richardson, Vivian Mann, Dr. Malcolm Phillips. Why is it you lot can't come together and have one building where we can go for our black mental health? And this is like, what, 6-7 years ago, and it still hasn't happened.
Do you know what? You're completely right. David Olewale was 40 years ago, and but we're still going to do it. You're right. Sometimes these things are a long time coming, but it takes people having the strength to be able to sit through all this information, which isn't easy. And then after that, because I heard Sister S for Stanford talk about something called transgenerational trauma, but as well as transgenerational trauma, I think just seeing this stuff, I could see from people's faces you experience a level of trauma. It's not easy. So just to answer your question, brother Naya, it's just, I think it's this, we are the solution, but it's like, once we've got over the horror of it, and then we can think clearly, we will come up
The
with
horrors are ongoing. You just need someone to step up and
Yes.
start to.
Okay.
That's what it takes.
Well, brother Manai, I will make contact with everybody in the room, and we will have conversations, and just one, the brother, and then our mother here. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Chubbs. I used to work for a company called Rethink Mental Illness. A big company like mine. Basically, they got recovery homes in the community in North London. I'm based there. Recently worked with a young black guy, African guy, Nigerian guy, huge, like 6'2", something like that. Seems clued up. This is not to say he's having certain problems and all sorts of things. And it was just how do you work with that sort of guy? If you know all the truths and all this sort of thing, at the time I wasn't, so clued up or whatever. I couldn't really help a guy in that situation.
So,
but my point is that these sort of people, these people that are going through all this sort of thing, it's hard to help and reach out to these guys. And I don't see any men in this field of work at all that's passionate to want to work in this field. Also, there's lots of different communities as well that's going through different sort of troubles as well. And might have stuff to add on to you as well. Honestly, that was my main question, just seeing how to help young, strong black men as well. Because people, there's lots of issues that's holding back black men as far as hustling and doing all the certain wrong things to get by or whatever, but you know, what are the things that they could be doing to help themselves?
It's a very good question, because sometimes people are going through things and you don't even know. There's no way of knowing. So I think you can only work with what you have, and you don't know him now. But if you see another person like that, since your worldview has slightly changed, your
even so, the system, the way the system is, medication, everyone their drug gets a drug about injection, medication. You don't even know how to get out of the situation. You kick off, the police are involved. You're in a ward, the door is locked. You know, you're in a forensic place. You don't even know how to get out of the building. Do you understand? It's like, okay, the people who are there supporting you, showing you love, are following policy and procedure. You're stuck. You're in there. Your mum is there making phone calls to you. You're shocked because you're locked in the system for the first time. You're 23 years old and you've been cool your whole life, and then you're put in that environment. You understand? Then you have no father. You have a mother who's addicted, or on drugs, drinking, whatever, smoking, whatever.
No.
Then you have a family who's here, immigrants, coming to the UK thinking it's all good, with their children, who have children, and you're there protecting them more, or even helping them too much, too overprotective. There's lots of issues. There's too many.
What you've just done is very you've just very eruditely articulated the condition, because we are first and second generation, and not coming from like having the economic status, which means power, because your economic status is just is a padding. It can protect you from certain things. It's like you've just said something that confirms what I've spoken about, because we just need to be aware corporately that our 23-year-olds who are men, and so men need fundamental things like a tree and a plant, and being locked up is not one of them, antisocial is not one of them. We need to be aware of that, find out, even though the data's already there, where they are in largest numbers, and then see how we can begin the process, because like there are people visiting, but they're not enough. It's having support systems in place, because if people are 23, if they're 43, if they're 53, if they're 93, everyone needs their support networks. That's how human beings are. You don't reach a certain age and then you just don't need friends and support anymore. So how to deal with them? Given what we have at the moment, and I hope this is not a cop-out, it's like your worldview has changed, and so even if it's an interaction that is more human, not based on the perceptions that the system has of that person, it can make a difference. And then, bottom line, if somebody's in there, the act is, I will give the information to Brother Naya. There is this review on the Mental Health Act Code of Practice. We're going to be holding a public meeting. There is apparently a legal right to an advocate. Now, people aren't told that. The quality of the advocate does determine a lot about how you either stay in the system, but maybe it's just getting more information out to the community to see how they can use it. Sorry, that's...
I remember his name, Dr. Naim Akbar.
Oh, fantastic. No, your point is good, and I appreciate what you've said. I think you just articulated, so I'm sorry I can't give more of an answer, because a better answer is needed.
But in these scenarios that's coming up, we have to make sure that we have the agency of advocates that we can call on. That's the way we need to go forward.
You're right, we do need advocates. Like Chinyere Nyam, who you saw, was the only lawyer I would ever recommend. He was not the Lawyer of the Year, Leslie Thomas, the first lawyer. Because there are certain lawyers who are like, because it's being recorded. Unless somebody has your interests at heart, it could make the situation worse. So having an advocate does not mean that you're in a better position. That's what I found. Yeah. And so it's having a good advocate that will advocate for you, not just because...
Not advocate for the system.
Yeah, just because it might be lucrative. So thank you for your point. And now I'm over here.
Sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me, she's next.
She's waiting
She's
for a
next.
while. Sorry. Thank you. Just yeah.
Well, just talking on the treatment of mental health, I think it's something good to make people and the doctors or whatever it is aware that the treatment is just not giving injection and so forth, make this situation worsen. They should look into the treatment of nutritional treatment. They have this group in America, in Canada, and in Italy. We should form such a group here where you can see these people and have different tests to see the right treatment for them. I spoke to one of these doctors when I met one, because I haven't got the book with me now, with old age you forget things. I can't remember the name of it. And he said it was going to be so expensive for the national health to go that route of treating people with nutritional means. But many people, according to this group, are being treated successfully nutritionally. And that is a group I think I want to form to make the medical people aware of the necessity of alternative treatments. That injection and things they give them is destroying them. If they are not healing them, they are destroying them. So how do we get this group together to make people aware and ask for it? If you remember, is it one of these ministers when Thatcher was there? I can't remember his name. His daughter was ill, mentally ill. They couldn't treat that girl here. They took that girl to America and probably to one of this group. She came back well, and she started living fairly normal life. So that's my own passion, to make it public and ask for this government to set up such a group. And they call them something, but they have a name, and we want it here in this country. Please, you are in all this sort of situation where we can form our own group to talk about it.
What you said is very important. It's the same as our three brothers beforehand. It's about culturally appropriate, sensitive alternatives to the medical model. I think what like this a psychiatrist called Simon Fernando, and he talks about change in psychiatry, and he said that anytime positive change has come about, it's come about through campaigning. Like, the system's very powerful and they're vested interest in maintaining the status quo. When you look at any of these, I should choose my words, like things don't happen by accident. Systems are in place and then you have outcomes. And so for the governments to acknowledge race in mental health, it didn't take the death of people because people have died before. It took the campaigning on the back of the death of people. That's what we've seen. And it took a very high personal price. Like the most recent report led by, took the death on camera of somebody. It didn't just happen. And so we're talking about culturally sensitive, community-based alternatives. So when people need care, they get it where they are. They're not pathologized because of what they look like. That, like Black Mental Health UK, like anything else that has led to a positive change, will have to start with us. Once it looks like it's working, like to get the Minister of State to speak at our conference last year, took 7 years of campaigning and establishing a name, and then being the only voice, and then they shut down anyone who would or buy off anyone who would speak out on an issue. So you're the only one. All of a sudden, an inquest blows up. They didn't realise you can't ignore it anymore. We just need to do it, and then. And not it's just like the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. No one can take that away from our community because no one gave it to our community. Black Mental Health UK, it's been self-financing for how long? How long? People are like, how big is your office? Do you know what? Regardless, we're still here. We're speaking at national level. We're speaking at international level. We're doing national conferences. No one can take this away because no one's given it. What we need to do is have a community-based, culturally appropriate service based on everything people have said, run by us, established by us. If you want to give us money, fine.
But funded by us.
Yes, well, funded by us, but we'll take money from other people as well.
As a bonus, but the main funding has to be us, because if they pull the funding, it's over. Well, so the main funding has to be us.
So you're right, but we have to do it, and then we'll surprise ourselves at what we can do.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll do it. We'll swap contact details and we'll do it. So next lady and then, yeah.
But what I wanted to say was that, in answer to your question about
Please.
us not having a place of our own,
Mm-hmm.
there is a black mental health hospital in Birmingham called the Patrick Centre. Have you heard of it?
I didn't know it was still open. I thought it closed down.
Has it closed down?
So sadly, an amazing psychologist.
Yeah.
And amazing. This is. Well, do you want to say the story or shall I?
No, she did. Yeah, I didn't know it closed down because I wanted to know how it was
Cool.
going.
You tell the story.
What's the success?
Well, this is my understanding. Patty Gift was the solution.
Mhm.
Incredible psychologist. Was she a psychologist? She's still around.
Yeah.
I think it was using a lot of money to have. I think it was a number of beds. Producing, offering, and it was for people in forensics, so there'd be step down. Any therapy you wanted, community-based, culturally sensitive, all to do with our heritage, all to do with restoring identity, healing, totally self-funded. It was this amazing psychologist and her mother in the West Midlands, because it's like London is the largest, where we live in largest numbers, but the West Midlands is the second largest group of African Caribbeans in the UK. And in order to get resources, it's like the money follows the person. So to fill the bed, there needs to be a referral. They didn't refer for how many years, and so it was just like, so we just need to resource ourselves when people need it. They come, because if you plug into a system that doesn't want to, they'll just starve. They starved it of cash, and so it went on for years. But the beds, it was incredible. The beds were empty while the people were just stuck in the forensic side of things, kept on getting detained and stuck in the forensic side. She would ask for referrals and the referrals would never be made. So it stayed empty, maybe one patient.
Yeah, that's all I was saying. I didn't know it closed down.
But she's still there and she's still brilliant, and the concept is good.
Okay. I was wondering if there isn't a need to maybe e-petition from patients, families, carers for more BME experts or professionals in the medical and or psychology, psychiatry field. If patients or carers, etc., were to kind of challenge so that more of these professionals will be available to them, maybe that could be a way towards a solution. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
I don't know.
Okay, petitions are good, but at the end of the day, we need money in our community. We spend so much money elsewhere. We need to find